What do you see when you envision America? Probably something like this: large houses, big families, white picket fence. How about this? Today, there are roughly 37.9 million people, or around 11.6% of the US population, currently living in poverty. Poverty is defined as a state in which one lacks the socially acceptable amount of material possessions. This can even include basic needs such as food, shelter, and clothing. Poverty is measured by comparing a household's pre-tax income to a poverty threshold adjusted for the size of the family. Currently, the threshold is set at 3 times the cost of a minimum food diet in 1963. So, a family of 4 would need to make a combined pre-tax income of over $30,000 a year to be considered above the poverty line. To tackle an issue like this, we need to know where it is. Poverty is most common in urban areas, with a concentrated poverty rate of 25.5% compared to only 7.1% in suburban and rural areas. Areas with the highest percentage of low income residents, like San Juan, Detroit, and Baltimore, all illuminate this trend. Now that we know where impoverished people are, we have to know what issues they're facing. People in poverty have a higher risk of mental illness, chronic disease, and a higher mortality rate. The difference in life expectancy between the top 1% of male earners and the bottom 1% of male earners was found to be 14.6 years in 2014. They are also twice as likely to be victimized by a violent crime. This is largely due to poverty being associated with higher crime rates. High crime areas are far poorer on average than lower crime areas. This shows how poverty affects not only the individual, but the community. There are also economic concerns with allowing a high rate of poverty. Just for having kids growing up in poverty, the United States loses about $500 billion a year because of the reduce in productivity and economic output, the cost of higher crime rates, and increased health spending. This suggests potentially high returns on anti-poverty measures due to offsetting these costs. So, what should actually be done about this issue? People have many different ideas on both the causes and solutions to poverty.
And by the 90s, runaway immigration from all over the world made it very clear that jobs clearly exist, at least sufficient to overcome poverty and welfare. Yet our problem of non-work among the poor continues. So mostly the work problem emerged is due largely to the disorganization of poor families and also to permissive government policies, something that we've set about correcting.
Some believe poverty is caused by disorganized families passing down a culture of poverty from generation to generation. This culture promotes laziness and lack of skills, leading to impoverished people collecting from welfare and anti-poverty programs with no incentive to improve their situation. Others argue it's not that impoverished people want to be on government programs, but they don't have the same opportunities as higher class people.
No one who lives in poverty wants to stay on government assistance programs. We want to be independent. We want to work hard and believe in the American dream.
Much of the argument boils down to what to do with welfare programs. Currently, refundable tax credits keep 9.6 million people above the poverty line. The COVID stimulus also saved an estimated 8.9 million people from poverty. Food stamps also helped an estimated 41.5 million impoverished and low-income Americans put food on the table in 2021. Some advocate for things like improving schools in poor areas, creating more jobs, increasing the minimum wage, and increasing welfare. But would they have a better overall outcome with no assistance, being fully independent of government programs? We have to make the choice: increase spending and hope we can help people out of poverty, or decrease it in an effort to encourage hardworking behavior so they can pull themselves out. The costs of allowing rampant poverty in our country are too great to ignore. Not only do impoverished people themselves suffer, but everyone else does too, both economically and with decreased public safety. That's why it would be the first issue I would tackle if elected to a public office. We need elected officials who are seeking real solutions, and only we have the power to vote them in.